We're learning that longtime Republican Senator Lindsey Graham has passed away. His office says he died on Saturday night after what they call a brief and sudden illness. The statement says Graham's family is asking for privacy at this time. He represented the state of South Carolina in the U.S. Congress since 1995.
Stay with me because we need to talk about Lindsey Graham and what his death means for American politics. The headline is simple. Lindsey Graham has died. But the bigger questions are what happens to his Senate seat, whether Democrats can compete in South Carolina, and who replace one of the Republican Party's most experienced figures. The first question many Democrats are asking is whether any Andrews can win the seat. The honest answer is that it will be difficult.
Back in 1990, back in 2003, before that, serving in the South Carolina House of Representatives. As you mentioned, we don't have much information right now on just what happened. I reached out to his office this morning. They're telling me that they have nothing more to add beyond that statement that went out. We are starting to get some words of love and condolences in from some who are close to him.
South Carolina remains a strongly Republican state. Graham's death creates uncertainty and turns the race into an open seat contest. But it does not erase the Republican advantage. Democrats should compete, raise money, and force Republicans to defend the seat, but they should not assume South Carolina has suddenly become an easy pickup. The largest loss for Republicans, however, is Graham's experience.
I think one thing that you've seen over the years was that he clearly felt that an activist foreign policy and being a champion of the military and more military intervention is something that he's been talking about for decades, especially the Iran issue. And we've seen what's happened with that in the last few months as well. But that has been sort of the criticism of Lindsey Graham over the years, what you're talking about. But what he's also been very, very adept at as a political practitioner was getting himself in a position of power and influence and kind of knowing where the winds were blowing within the Republican Party and heading there. And in the process, giving himself an ability to survive politically, to win election after election, and to increase his seniority in the Senate, and to have more power for the people of South Carolina. This will certainly, South Carolina is a solidly Republican seat. It's hard to imagine, flipping of South Carolina, North Carolina in a bit of a different place. But it's a bit early to start talking about the political realities of what happens next, as we all, I think, are just in shock at the idea that Lindsey Graham has suddenly died, and also reflecting on a life of decades of public service.
Whatever you thought of his politics, he spent decades in Washington. He understood the Senate, had powerful relationships, and became a major Republican voice on foreign policy and national security. His replacement may cast similar votes, but that person will not immediately have the same seniority, influence, or national profile. Graham's death also highlights a bigger transformation inside the Republican Party. An older generation of Republican leaders is gradually leaving the stage. The important question is not only who replaced them, but what kind of politicians come next. Will they be traditional conservatives or younger MAGA figures who are even more loyal to Donald Trump, more confrontational, and less interested in compromise? That is the real political story. Many Americans still believe politics will return to normal once Trump is gone. They think that if he leaves office or disappears from public life, the Republican Party will become what it was before him. But Trumpism is bigger than Donald Trump.
How you received this news and your immediate gut reaction when you heard it. So what makes it even stranger is that I got a call last night sometime in, the early evening, maybe in the 7s, and he called and he said, we're all set for the Save America Act. He was pushing the Save America Act like crazy. He got back, said he just landed from Ukraine. I said, that's a long trip to make. He said he sounded a little tired, but perfect, but a little bit tired. Had a right to be. And he was a worker. He was really a worker, but he sounded great actually. But he actually said he was tired, but he wanted to pass the Save America Act. And I said, well, we're going to get it done, Lindsey. We're going to get it done. I'll see you soon. We thought maybe we might even meet today. And then that was it. And that was very around the time. It couldn't have been much longer. It could have been his last call. I don't know exactly, but I got a message about 1:00 in the morning from one of the people at his office that he had passed away. I said, I just can't believe it. He was like a member of the family to me. It's very tough, actually. It's amazing.
Mr. President,
he was such an advocate. He was, if he wanted to get something, and he had a unique ability. He was able to deal with Democrats and Republicans. If I had a problem, a real problem, I wouldn't often ask. But if I had a problem with a Democrat, he could work it out. He was a great politician, actually.
he loved
Trump gave the movement a face and a voice, but it is supported by elected officials, donors, conservative organizations, media networks, and millions of voters. J.D. Vance would still be there. Republican governors would still be there. Conservative judges, members of Congress, and political groups would continue promoting the same agenda. Even if Democrats win Congress or the presidency, the movement does not simply disappear. That is why Democrats must stop thinking only about individual politicians. The goal cannot be to defeat Trump and then relax. The goal must be to build a lasting movement capable of defending democracy in every election. Yes, sure, presidential elections matter, but so do midterms, primaries, and local races.
Senator Lindsey Graham was first elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in 1994. Then in 2002, he was elected to the U.S. Senate. He was seeking a fifth term representing South Carolina in the U.S. Senate. This is a developing story. We'll bring you any updates on air and online at WJCL.com. Now, what happens when a senator dies during election season? Senator Lindsey Graham did win the Republican primary for senator last month. And according to the 17th Amendment, when a senator dies, the state legislature can authorize the governor to appoint a temporary replacement. Our next scheduled election in South Carolina is in November. Graham's seat would be up for election. And we know that Dr. Annie Andrews from the Low Country won the Democratic primary. Mark Lynch came in second in the Republican primary, but as of this morning, it's unclear if he will now be the Republican pick for Senate. We're working to find that out.
Governors matter. State legislatures matter. Judges matter. Secretaries of state matter. School boards and local prosecutors matter. Democracy is not something people protect once and then forget. It requires constant participation. History repeatedly shows what happens when democracy voters become complacent.
All right, so as the results are rolling in, what are your thoughts about earning the Democratic nomination for the U.S. Senate?
I'm just really excited to be here. I'm excited about the future for South Carolina. I'm excited to have such a unifying message for South Carolina tonight. Whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent, there's a place for you in this campaign. South Carolina is ready for change. We're ready to move beyond the senator we've had for nearly a quarter of a century. I'm a pediatrician and a mom, and I'm laser focused on delivering results for South Carolinians. And I'm just so excited to be here to celebrate tonight and then get focused on November.
And you've been laser focused on a sharp critique against Lindsey Graham since you launched your campaign. Why was that so important to you right from the start?
To me, Lindsey Graham is really a poster child for what's wrong with career politicians. You know, he doesn't stand for anything other than what he thinks will help him get reelected. He doesn't wake up every day and fight for South Carolinians, and we deserve so much better. And the reason I got involved in politics is because I saw the impacts of his failed policies on my patients and their families. My patients and their families deserve better. Everyone in South Carolina deserves better. And that's why I'm just so proud to fearlessly take on this fight against Lindsey Graham.
You are not a politician by trade. I know you've run before, but why did it feel like the right time to get back into the political arena for you?
I mean, to be honest, I decided to get in this race on the day RFK Jr. was nominated to lead HHS because what the harm he has done to America's healthcare system and public health infrastructure will take pediatricians like me decades to recover from. I understand the urgency of this moment for my children and every child in South Carolina. It would have been more convenient for me to wait a few more election cycles to get back into the political game or to just stay a pediatrician. But this moment is so urgent. Everybody has to do everything we can to fight for the South Carolina that every single one of us needs and deserves.
A Democratic administration enters office after a crisis and works to stabilize the country. Progress feels slow, voters become frustrated, many stay home, and Republicans return to power. Barack Obama entered office during a historic financial crisis and helped stabilize the country. But Democrats later suffer major congressional losses because many voters did not return to the midterms. Then, Donald Trump won the presidency. Joe Biden later entered office facing a pandemic, economic disruption, political division, but once some stability returned, many people act as though the danger has passed. It had not.
You start to ramp up your campaign for November. What do you want voters on the trail to know about you and your campaign?
I'm a mom and a pediatrician first and second. I'm not a career politician. I don't want to be a career politician. I want to go up to Washington, D.C. and solve problems. And to do that, I'll work with whoever wants to work with me to help deliver results for South Carolinians. You know, Lindsey Graham's had, as I said, nearly a quarter of a century. South Carolina continues to be on the bottom of every list we want to be on the top of, and the top of every list we want to be on the bottom of, and we deserve better. We need a healthcare system that isn't so broken and fragmented. We need investment in our public education system. We need to fix our roads and bridges, and we need someone who's willing to address our cost of living emergency, and those are the things I'll focus on.
Last question for you. South Carolina has not had a Democratic senator in 20 years. Why do you think it should be you and can be you?
Well, it absolutely can be me. We just heard from Inez Tenenbaum, who is the last Democrat to win statewide. I'm so proud to have her in my corner. 2026 is not 2020, and this is a totally different political era. We've seen how Donald Trump and the administration has overplayed their hand. They ran on lowering prices and never starting forever wars, and what they have done is start a new forever war and done nothing about lowering prices. People understand they were sold a lie, and if they're looking for something different, they have a home in my campaign, and I know that I am the Democrat that can flip South Carolina blue, but more importantly than blue or red, I will be a senator that everyone can trust and that will fight for every single person in this beautiful state.
The lesson is simple. Democrats cannot show up only when Trump is personally on the ballot. They must participate whenever the people supporting his agenda are running. Lindsey Graham's death does not end the movement he represented. Another Republican retiring will not end it. Defeating one candidate will not end it. The movement continues until its opponents become better organized, more disciplined, and more committed. And when people talk about returning America to normal, we should ask, normal for whom? For many Black Americans, Latino communities, immigrants, and indigenous people, the old normal was never as people or fair as political nostalgia suggests. Racism, voter suppression, deportation campaigns, and discrimination are not entirely new. They are old patterns appearing in new forms. Protecting democracy therefore requires confronting racism, xenophobia, misogyny, anti-Semitism, and homophobia wherever they appear. That includes the political left. Progressiveness cannot condemn prejudice from Republicans while excusing prejudice inside their own coalition. A democratic movement must oppose hatred consistently, regardless of who is responsible for it. That requires focus.
Donald Trump is not saying that he's going to cancel the 2026 midterm elections, but he is talking about them in increasingly threatening terms.
We can't allow cheating in elections. If they can't do it honestly and it can't be done properly and timely, then
whether one senator dies or another retires, stay focused. Whether Trump dominates the news or disappears temporarily, stay focused. Whether a politician is defeated, indicted, or replaced, stay focused. The danger of personality-driven politics is that people begin to believe everything depends on one person. It does not. This is about institutions, organizations, and the political habits of millions of people. None of us controls the entire country, but we can contribute. We can vote, we can organize, we can support responsible candidates, we can challenge misinformation and help others participate. We must also protect ourselves from political exhaustion. Staying alert does not mean living in constant panic. It means understanding that this struggle will not disappear overnight and developing the discipline to remain involved for years. So yes, Lindsey Graham has died. His family deserves sympathy and privacy. Political disagreement does not require celebrating someone's death. But the political questions remain. Who replaces him? Can Democrats compete for the seat? What kind of Republican Party is emerging? And will voters understand that losing one political leader does not eliminate the movement behind him? There is no magical return to normal. There is only what we build next. Stay informed, stay disciplined, stay involved, because democracy does not defend itself.